Hi everyone, thank you for being here and also just taking the time and space to let me share this work. My name is Jessica Lizarraga, and this is actually a chapter I am working on, so also your feedback and just like any sort of questions that you have would actually be really, really helpful to me. I am going to start off with playing a video, so hopefully this works. If you want to look at the rest of the video, you are more than welcome to go on YouTube for that. How do I go back? I'm sorry. Yeah, you just go fly. Thank you. All right, so in 2021, during my second year in grad school, a YouTube video and social media Mexican-American influencer from Riverside, Jennifer Reese, or more commonly known as Jenny69, shocked the Latinx community, including myself, with their music video corrido La 69. In it, she is dressed in various outlandish outfits, aiming to produce a Mexican narco aesthetic, draped in expensive jewelry, a tejana, and a white suit to imply that she's not simply a buchona, but also the boss. I opened this conversation using Reese's video portraying the buchona aesthetic, to emphasize how she is assuming this persona without really recognizing and acknowledging the trauma and violence that comes with associating with the narco lifestyle. Also, I aim to, within this chapter, today I'm going to just look at two books that were very centered on like Mexican literature and like Mexican women. I do wish for this at the end of this chapter to really circle back and include Jenny69 as like kind of like a juxtaposition between these communities. So let me go back. So for this project, I aim to differentiate the various definitions of buchona, who the term is applied to versus who actively assumes the persona. At its core, the buchona identity is an aesthetic that many Latinas embody, characterized by flashy clothing, extravagant jewelry, cosmetic enhancements, and luxury cars. Some Latinas, such as social media influencers like Jenny69, deliberately create and perform this persona online. However, the original buchona aesthetic is rooted in the wives and girlfriends of narco men, who typically do not self-identify as buchonas. Latinas who refer to themselves as buchonas are actually performing a buchona persona without actually being involved within the narco circles. I am also similarly using the term, the term hypergamy from anthropology scholar Nicole Concebo to explain what buchonas are attempting to do in these narco communities to survive. Concebo looks at rural Filipino women who perform what they believe is what Western white males want from a spouse in order to move up socially and economically. Here we have two groups of women really entering spaces to take some control of their lives within a dominant society that holds limited resources for them. So these are the two novels that I'm going to just be pointing out briefly here today. The internet has provided women in the narco world with a global platform to actively perform and profit from the buchona aesthetic. No longer confined to immediate narco circles, the narco aesthetic has become a widely consumed identity, allowing these women to leverage their image for financial and social gain. Through social media, they actively engage in shaping and promoting their aesthetic, turning their visibility into a form of narco marketing. By publicly embodying the buchona identity, they establish dominance within narcoculture and extend their influence beyond it. Their bodies become both a symbol of power and a tool for economic mobility, amplified by the internet's reach. To fully grasp this evolving buchona identity, I do turn in this particular chapter to 4 Mexican scholars specifically, and I did this very intentionally because I am looking at 2 books that refer to Mexican women, so I kind of want to keep the more of like the analyzing from Mexico itself. In Emma, Mi las Señoras del Narco, journalist Anabel Hernandez explores the complexities of the Mexican-American world and the women who become involved, willingly or not. She structures her book around different wives, mistresses, and lovers of various drug lords, debating the first and last chapters dedicating the first and last chapters of Emma Coronel Aispuro and her relationship with the infamous Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Hernandez reveals how deeply intertwined the patriarchal narco world is with the Mexican and U.S. governments, the church, and popular culture. She highlights how easily some women enter these spaces while others have little choice. In contrast, Orfa Alarcon's fictional novel Perra Brava offers a more personal, humanistic perspective. The story follows Fernanda, a young woman from Monterrey, in a relationship with Julio, a rising narco boss. Through Fernanda's experience, the novel explores themes of domestic abuse, patriarchy, state violence, and class divisions, complicating and in some ways humanizing her choices. While Hernandez provides an external analysis of these women's lives, Alarcon's novel allows readers to attempt to understand, but probably never will completely, the women in these violent narco spheres. So these are the 4 women I am specifically looking for in my methodology. One is Anihalda Moncada Cota, who argues that narco culture operates parallel to dominant culture, integrating elements like architecture, fashion, beliefs, and music. And then, whereas Moncada refers to the female body as a space of micropower, Kenya Herrera's Borges analyzes the Buchona as the construction of the feminine that exists against the adoption of traditional Mexican roles. And then also Itzelin de Rocio Mata Navarro, who argues that women in narco circles embrace these roles for upward mobility and, more importantly, safety. All these scholars mention and focus on the role these women assume within narcoculture and how they use their body to perform a new conception of femininity, which generates a sense of safety in a violent and criminal space. What these scholars fail to capture is the way power is exercised by these buchonas, because the theme of power is usually attributed exclusively to the men within narcoculture. This is the exact point that Alejandra León Olovera makes in her work La Feminidad Buchona, por feminidad, corporalidad y relaciones de poder en la narcocultura mexicana. In her work, León defines the views and views the Buchona through an acknowledgement that their existence is always in relationship to a man and predominantly heterosexual. Being a woman within narcoculture automatically places them at the bottom of the hierarchy. So this is Emma Coronel Aispuro, just in case some of you do not know. Emma grew up in a small rancho La Angostura en Canales, Durango, enclavada en la región dominado Triángulo Dorado entre Domingo, Sinaloa, y Chihuahua, with only about 80 inhabitants. I also just put Spanish in English translation because I butcher my Spanish a lot, and then also I translated for those of you who do not understand Spanish. While Hernandez described it as a remote and inaccessible, using imagery like en medio de la nada and cordilleras cubiertos de bosque de pino, Emma emphasizes its close-knit, humble community where many leave for work in Culiacan or the U.S. to survive. She was one of 4 children and portrays her childhood as happy, recalling her humble upbringing and learning ranch life alongside her siblings. Hernandez 20. However, Hernandez later reveals Emma's father's alcoholism, domestic abuse, abandonment, and the resulting poverty that forced her older brother to work in the fields. Hernandez 28 to 29. Emma's story is not unusual from other young women from Mexico. In fact, violence against women, the VAW, is a global health and humanitarian global problem, and in Mexico, the violence against women, where 70% of women aged 15 or more have been victims of at least one violent event, and 43 of them experienced those events between 2020 to 2021 during the pandemic. Considering the economic, social, and cultural pushes for La Angostura residents to leave their hometown, It is not difficult to imagine the choices that Emma made in her life. Meeting El Chapo at 17 years old, although dangerous, provided an out of sorts from the poverty for her family, and even the entire rancho, as Hernandez mentions. Gracias al que Chapo pagaba a su estancia en Culiacán, poco a poco la familia de Emma se fue transfiriendo, cambiando su vida de ranchería a una ciudad. And even comparing the improvements done in El Rancho, when Emma participated and won the title of Reina in the town festival del El Café y la Guayaba. Hasta 2006, el espacio donde se llevaba a cabo los eventos de la feria era una sencilla cancha asfaltada. Para 2007, cuando Emma fue coronada, se le agregaron a la construcción corredores de concreto hidráulico, alumbrado, verba perimetral, baños públicos y estructura metálica techada. Although not explicitly stated by Hernandez, it is insinuated that all those changes for Emma's family in her hometown were in response of El Chapo's monetary influence. Her family was able to escape the poverty cycle that they were trapped in due to Emma's relationship to El Chapo. Her entire rancho benefited from it. Emma's choices to participate in the world of the narcos can be better understood through Fernanda's fictional character in Perra Brava. In order to truly understand Fernanda's choices and the manner in which she copes, we must first understand her family's traumatic past, incredibly similar to Emma's childhood upbringing. When Fernanda was 6 years old, her sister, Sofia, 13, found her mom's murdered body by her own father. Fernanda recalls that Sofia iba a la escuela en la tarde y yo en la mañana para que mamá nunca estuviera sola, and how her sister nunca criticaba a mi mamá, tampoco la veía con ojos acusadores, la miraba con ojos suplicando para que despertara. Sofia and Fernanda both lost their childhood because of their father's domestic abuse and their hope to protect their mother and each other. Despite Fernanda's own family's past with domestic abuse, she engages in an equally abusive relationship with Julio. The difference with the relationship with Julio and her parents is that she is actively benefiting from social and economic status and ensuring the safety from her sister Sofia and her niece. Okay, being objectified is only one of the ways that Fernanda pays for her financial perks, that being Julio's girlfriend brings up. One of her financial perks, which goes on, is that she kind of brings up like all the stuff that Julio gives her and her clothing. And she mentions that she does this because she's performing this almost like a job sort of as being Julio's girlfriend. It is only through looking at these women, Buchonas in literature, both fictional and non-fictional, like the ones talked about in the paper, Emma and Fernanda, that we can see what exists beyond this performance. Both of these women show us how the Buchona aesthetic is vital for their survival for various reasons. As objects to these men, their appearance is necessary and often enforced. These women use their bodies and femininity as currency in a Mexican society that does not protect them otherwise. They willingly engage within the narco circles in search of economic security for themselves, their families, and even for their entire community. They are aware of the dangers that come with the lifestyle, but to them, the benefits far outweigh the risk. Thank you.